A storm is gathering in the Taiwan Strait, both literally and figuratively. The air is thick with tension, and the world can sense that something significant is brewing just beyond the horizon. This is not just another regional dispute, it's a crisis that could make the world hold its breath, as the fate of millions hangs in the balance. Newsrooms across the globe are on high alert, and ordinary people everywhere are glued to their screens, anxious about what might come next. In a move that has stunned both allies and adversaries, Taiwan is preparing to place advanced American-made missile launchers on its smallest, most exposed islands, right on China's doorstep. These islands, often little more than rocky outcrops, are now becoming the front line in a high-stakes game of deterrence. This bold and risky maneuver is designed to send a powerful signal to Beijing. Any attempt to invade will be met with fierce resistance, but at the same time, it raises the risk of a dangerous escalation, as both sides increase their military readiness and the margin for error shrinks. By deploying HIMARS rocket systems to these forward bases, Taipei is making it clear that the cost of aggression will be high. These mobile rocket launchers can strike targets far across the strait, threatening any invading force before it even reaches Taiwan's main island. The message is unmistakable. Crossing the strait will not be easy, and the consequences could be devastating. This marks a fundamental shift in Taiwan's defense strategy. No longer is the focus solely on protecting the main island. Now Taiwan is extending its reach to the very edge of China's coast. By fortifying outlying islands like Penghu and Matsu, Taiwan is creating a buffer zone, hoping to disrupt any invasion plans before they can fully unfold. The new strategy is clear: disrupt and destroy an invading force before it can reach Taiwan's shores. Military drills have intensified, with troops practicing rapid deployment and missile launches from coastal batteries. Every exercise is a rehearsal for a scenario everyone hopes will never happen. The stakes are not just regional, they are global. The Taiwan Strait is a vital artery for world trade, and any conflict here would immediately draw in the United States and China, the world's two largest economies. The ripple effects would threaten global supply chains, alliances, and the fragile balance of power in Asia and beyond. The world is watching with bated breath as Taiwan's missile gamble unfolds. International observers are tracking every military maneuver, every diplomatic statement, and every sign of escalation. The hope is that this show of strength will preserve peace, but the fear is that it could ignite a regional firestorm that spirals out of control. This is not just a local dispute, it's a test for the entire international community. The United Nations, world leaders, and diplomats are all being forced to confront the reality that the peace of the region, and perhaps the world, hangs in the balance. The burning question remains: will this bold strategy deter China, convincing its leaders that the risks of invasion are simply too great? Or will it become the spark that ignites a major war, drawing in powers from around the globe and changing the course of history? Taiwan's decision is a moment of truth, not just for itself, but for the world. It forces every nation to consider what they are willing to do to preserve peace, and what price they might pay if deterrence fails. The next moves in this high-stakes gambit will shape the future of the region, and perhaps the fate of the world itself. Taiwan is far more than just a single island, it's an intricate network of outposts, each playing a unique and vital role in the nation's security and identity. These islands, scattered across the Western Pacific, form a defensive web that extends Taiwan's reach and resilience far beyond its main territory. Some of these outposts are astonishingly close to China's coast, so close in fact, that on a clear day, you can see the mainland from their rocky shores. This proximity makes them both a shield and a flashpoint, where tensions can escalate in an instant. The Penghu Archipelago and Dongyin Island stand as critical military garrisons, forming the very front lines of Taiwan's defense strategy. These islands are not just symbolic, they are fortified, heavily manned, and constantly on alert, serving as the first barrier against any potential aggression. Penghu, a cluster of islands situated in the heart of the Taiwan Strait, is a vital hub for controlling maritime traffic and providing early warning of any approaching threats. Its location allows Taiwan to monitor the strait's busy shipping lanes and detect hostile movements long before they reach the main island. If China were ever to capture Penghu, it would gain a strategic springboard for launching a direct assault on Taiwan itself, dramatically shortening the distance for any invasion force and threatening the heart of Taiwan's defenses. Dongyin, even closer to China, is a rocky fortress bristling with radar arrays, anti-ship missiles, and sophisticated surveillance gear. Its high cliffs and reinforced bunkers make it a formidable outpost, designed to detect and deter any hostile approach from the mainland. These islands serve as Taiwan's tripwire. Any attack here would trigger an immediate and forceful response, not only from Taiwan's own military but likely drawing in the United States and its allies, escalating a local skirmish into a potential regional conflict. By deploying long-range missiles to these forward positions, Taiwan transforms its outposts from passive defensive shields into active offensive launch pads, capable of striking back at any adversary and complicating enemy attack plans. This strategic move forces China to recalculate the risks and costs of any military adventure, knowing that any misstep could trigger a rapid and devastating counterattack from these fortified islands. The geography of the region is being rewritten in real time, as both sides adapt to new realities, and the stakes for peace and security have never been higher. Taiwan's forward islands are now at the very center of a new and complex strategic equation, where every decision could have far-reaching consequences for the entire region. The world must now consider the profound consequences of a conflict that could ignite on these tiny, exposed outposts, places that, despite their size, may determine the fate of the Taiwan Strait and the balance of power in Asia. At the heart of this crisis is the HIMARS rocket system, a battlefield game-changer. HIMARS is fast, mobile, and deadly, able to launch rockets and vanish before the enemy can strike back. Taiwan has increased its order of these systems, signaling their importance. The real power lies in the ATACMS missiles, with a range of nearly 190 miles, enough to strike deep into China from Penghu or Dongyin. This gives Taiwan the ability to hit Chinese airbases, ports, and command centers before an invasion even begins. For the first time, China's own territory is at risk, forcing Beijing to defend its coast. The psychological impact is huge. China can no longer build up forces with impunity. HIMARS shifts the balance, giving Taiwan a new lever of deterrence and a boost in confidence. The message is clear: Taiwan can now strike back, and China must think twice before making a move. The echoes of the Cuban Missile Crisis still haunt the Taiwan Strait, reverberating through history as a stark warning of how quickly the world can teeter on the edge of disaster. The lessons of 1962 are not just relics of the past, they are urgent reminders for our present. In 1962, the world nearly plunged into nuclear war over Soviet missiles stationed in Cuba, just 90 miles from the US coastline. The standoff between Washington and Moscow brought humanity closer to annihilation than ever before, as leaders weighed impossible choices under the shadow of mutual destruction. Today, a new flashpoint is emerging. Taiwan's deployment of advanced missile systems is raising the stakes in the region, threatening to trigger a standoff with China that could echo the tension and danger of the Cuban Missile Crisis. The world watches as history threatens to repeat itself, this time in the heart of East Asia. The missiles in question, HIMARS and ATACMS, are not nuclear, but their strategic impact is profound. These systems can strike deep into Chinese territory, putting critical military hubs, airfields, and command centers within reach. Their presence fundamentally alters the military balance, making the threat to China immediate and tangible. For Beijing, this is more than a military challenge. It's a direct threat to national security, a red line that cannot be ignored. Chinese leaders see these missiles as a provocation, a move that could force them into a decisive and potentially dangerous response. The parallels are striking. Just as the United States saw Soviet missiles in Cuba as a dagger pointed at its heart, China now views Taiwan's missile deployments as an existential threat. The psychological impact is immense, fueling fears and hardening resolve on both sides. The sudden shift in the balance of power erases the natural buffer of the Taiwan Strait, bringing the threat right to China's doorstep. The sense of security that distance once provided is gone, replaced by a new era of vulnerability and suspicion. In response, Beijing could escalate quickly, imposing a naval blockade, issuing ultimatums, or even launching military operations to prevent these missiles from becoming fully operational. The risk of miscalculation grows with every passing day, as both sides prepare for the worst. The United States, too, faces a terrible dilemma. Should it back down and risk abandoning an ally, or stand firm and risk a direct military confrontation with another nuclear-armed superpower? The stakes could not be higher, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Around the world, people watch anxiously as two great powers stare each other down, with Taiwan caught in the crossfire. The island's fate hangs in the balance, and the consequences of escalation could ripple far beyond its shores. The risk of escalation is real, and the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for the region, but for the entire world. A single misstep could unleash a chain reaction of events that no one can fully control. The Taiwan Strait is now the stage for a new missile crisis, one with global stakes, where the decisions made in the coming days could shape the course of history for generations to come. Taiwan's missile gamble is driven by desperation, not aggression. China's military has grown rapidly, and Xi Jinping's threats of reunification are louder than ever. The US once hesitated to sell Taiwan offensive weapons, but China's growing assertiveness changed the calculation. Recent arms deals have given Taiwan the HIMARS and long-range missiles it needs for credible deterrence. Taiwan has learned from Ukraine, smart mobile weapons can help a smaller nation inflict heavy losses on a larger invader. Outnumbered, Taiwan must fight asymmetrically, using technology and geography to make invasion too costly for Beijing. The goals strike hard and fast, buying time for allies to respond. Placing missiles on forward islands is a desperate but necessary move to ensure survival. For Taiwan, it's a high-stakes bet, one it hopes will keep war at bay. Beijing will not ignore missiles on its doorstep. The Chinese Communist Party, driven by nationalism, would see this as both a military threat and a political insult. China could launch a preemptive strike to destroy the launchers, risking immediate escalation. Alternatively, it might impose a blockade, daring Taiwan and the US to break it. Economic and political pressure, disinformation, and military exercises could all be used to intimidate Taipei. China could also deploy its own missiles and conduct invasion drills, raising the stakes further. The risk of miscalculation is enormous. One wrong move could spiral into war. The world would be watching, hoping cooler heads prevail. For decades, US military power kept the peace in the Taiwan Strait, but the balance is shifting. America's forces are stretched thin, and China's military is focused on taking Taiwan. The US Navy's presence in the region is no longer guaranteed to deter Beijing. China's massive naval buildup and anti-access weapons threaten to keep American forces at bay. Taiwan's new missile strategy reflects this reality. It can't count on immediate US intervention. Instead, Taiwan must rely more on its own capabilities and regional allies like Japan. Deploying HIMARS is Taipei's way of creating its own deterrent, independent of American guarantees. The hopes show enough resolve to buy time for US and allied support to arrive. The message is clear: Taiwan is preparing to stand alone if it must. The era of unquestioned American dominance in the region is over. The stakes for Taiwan's survival have never been higher. Taiwan's HIMARS deployment is a monumental gamble. Best case, it deters China, making invasion too costly and preserving the status quo. Worst case, it provokes Beijing, triggering a preemptive strike or blockade and risking all-out war. There's also a third path: a tense standoff, with both sides on high alert and the world economy at risk. The outcome depends on how each side reads the other's intentions and resolve. Is Taiwan's move seen as defensive or as a provocation? The world must now live with the constant threat of crisis in the strait. If deterrence works, Taiwan's freedom is secured. If not, the consequences could be catastrophic. The future of the region hangs in the balance. The Indo-Pacific stands at a crossroads. Taiwan's missile deployment is a bold response to existential threat, but it pushes the region closer to conflict. China must choose between force and restraint. The US must decide how far to support Taiwan. For Taipei, the path is clear. Prepare for all outcomes, strengthen defenses, and deepen alliances. Deterrence only works if the threat is credible and the will to use it is clear. The world enters a new, more dangerous phase in the Taiwan Strait. The choices made now will shape the future, either securing peace or sparking catastrophe. The hope for a fragile peace rests on a knife's edge.